Here we are, episode 45 of the Two Russells podcast. And as always, thank you to our listeners and thank you to our guests. And if you are enjoying the podcast, as I forget to say every week, but I've remembered to say this week, please could you follow, share, and subscribe to our channels. And we're always very keen to hear from you about guests that you would like us to try and secure on the Two Russells podcast. And
The caveat, of course, I'm afraid, we do say no to some people. This is not a podcast to be kind of gratuitously selling your wares as a business. There's lots and lots of game-changing prop tech businesses. We all know who they are. This is much more about the person, much more about the journey, much more about challenge and adversity, how failure breeds success, and so on. And I think actually the last episode, although there weren't that many failures in Gareth Salmon's career, often kind of accidental ones, but an inspiring journey. A guy that comes from a humble background,
Yep.
started an estate agency at 17,
Yep.
pulled himself up by his bootstraps, and now he's the MD, the CEO of a business in our industry that is worth £400 million.
Although I think, Russell, clever in percentage terms, isn't it? To lose 50% of anything is a big loss.
But
But
it
I
wasn't
do
a
think
business as such, was it?
no, but it was his own personal investment that he'd made. So I think definitely there's a few setbacks. And it was interesting looking and hearing at Gareth say, "Oh, I was going to retire at 40." Like, wow, what would he have done for
Well,
those
let's see what
next
our
years?
next guest has to say in terms of journey and maybe any setbacks and on
Yes.
his or her, we haven't revealed yet, their journey to success. We'll see.
Definitely, definitely. That brings me on to welcome to the Two Russells podcast, Chris Buckler, the Chief Commercial Officer of TAUK, commonly known as
It's TAUK.
The Agency
TAUK.
UK, here we go, yeah.
Oh,
Don't give me stick on
Oh,
brand.
it's TAUK.
The Agency UK, it is an evolution of the brand. So listen, first of all, thank you for having me on.
You've gone
gone straight for it, yeah. I'm on the back foot. We'll come on to brand.
Can I just say, Chris and I go way back. We've been mates for a long, long time. We know each other from our Keller days, which we will definitely.
we've
touch
gone
on.
early on the Keller
We'll
stuff.
touch
Well,
on.
let's
So
let's
if
park that.
if I'm teasing him, it's because we know each other very, very well. Look, TAUK is TAUK. The Agency UK is what it stands for. I think the branding's terrible, by the way.
That is your opinion?
Which he likes to have.
He does, yeah.
But it wasn't that long ago, or a year ago, we had Steph Ass from TAUK. I think it was a year ago. Steph talked to us passionately about the journey and where everything was going. And at that time, you weren't at TAUK. So it hit the headlines a few months ago that you merged your business, sold your business, brought the business together. So let's just talk about how you've arrived at TAUK first of all.
So I obviously met Russell at Keller Williams. So I owned and operated two of what we call the market centres and when I decided to leave, which I'm sure we'll touch
Yep.
on, they were the only two market centres to ever produce a profit. And there's so many great things about the Keller Williams business that I learned, which again, I'm sure we touch on. But there's actually some fundamentals of why I thought it wouldn't succeed in the UK. So I was like, right, I want to take the best bits, but leave my Stetsons and cowboy hats at the door. So we launched the estate agency. It was British Racing Green, solid brand. And
What was that, 22, 23?
that were, yeah, 23. So we ran the business for 18 months, had 25-ish brokers. And I was
Transfer, yeah.
yeah. When we left at Keller Williams, we had a number that transferred with us, and then a couple more joined. Obviously, we lost a couple as well. But I didn't have the value proposition right. I had some very loyal agents that liked the brand and liked me and what I was looking to do, but the value proposition wasn't right, and I didn't have the funding in situ. So I went out to get funding from wherever I could find it.
So this is not borrowing money. This is investing.
This is investing money.
Yeah.
There's a story of someone that was involved in, they IPO'd an estate agency. That's all I'm going to say. And they were going to come on board as my chairman, which was brilliant. And then their other half declined and said that they're at that point of life now. They can't do it. So highs and lows, setbacks. I had some Americans keen to invest. I didn't really want to go down that route again. I had an Aussie business that I can't reveal who they are, but quite a big Aussie business that actually started sending me money. And I ended up with the Agency UK and their wonderful brand.
So you had a conversation with them and they said, we'd like to buy you.
Yeah, so we'd been courting
We,
for a little
we like
while.
your 22 agents. We like.
Yeah, so I think a couple of things that. So Michael Bruce was my mentor when I set the estate agency up through Agents Together. I'm forever grateful for that. What was brilliant about Michael is he kept me arm's length from Kenny. He very much respected the
But Mark,
relationship.
Michael.
Michael.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he very much respected that Kenny was involved in another brokerage business and not to blur the lines, which was great. But the conversations naturally happen. I respected Steph. I've seen her a lot. Got to know Kenny that little bit. A small
Kenny and Harry Hill were already investors.
yes.
Yeah.
A little known gentleman called Joshua Rayner then made a bit of a formal introduction. Thank you, Josh.
Yeah,
Appreciate you. And I looked at it.
Quite a good connector, I think.
He's not bad.
Yeah.
He's not bad. His team are great. Haver's MD's brilliant as well. So
Did he get a fee?
did he get a fee? That's
I'll go have a check whether he had signed terms. Does he?
It might be overstating it, but yeah, not bad. Yeah.
So I mean, I looked at it and I touched on the value proposition wasn't right in my brokerage. I literally put a British brand out there and copied the American models, the capping models, the downline models, and I believe in those models. I think they work outside of the UK. They work very, very well. Inside of the UK, listen, you can't argue with what EXP has done. But if you look at the failure rate of what I would call a pure brokerage versus a full support brokerage, they're fundamentally different. So
Sorry, do you mean the businesses or the agents?
the agents,
The agents,
Okay.
right? So
The churn, about 50%.
well, you know, at Keller and EXP, you know those numbers, right?
Wasn't
So
at EXP, but Keller, I know it was all of 50%, as in the first 12 months of a self-employed agent coming on board.
And that's when pipelines were turning quicker, wasn't
Yeah,
they?
50% would just fail because there was a lack of post-sign-up support.
and there's lots in this, right? So one, it was unethical recruiting. It was just get the numbers in, get the numbers in, get the numbers in. Two, a lack of support, and three, a lack of investment in the agent. It was just almost, well, we're the brokerage, you're the agent, so you should go and do your own marketing. You should go and do your own door knocking. You should go do your own canvassing. So you get world-class agents that are horrific marketeers going, I want to go self-employed. They turn up and go, what's in this bag of tricks? Oh, fuck all. What am I going to do? And then their mindset would go, scarcity would go. So what
Actually, what the problem in my experience was, it would be sold to them as this is the road to riches and it's easy,
Work
it's
your
great,
network.
and so on.
Yeah.
And then the reality is 3, 4, 5, 6 months later, because you kind of been left on your own. In Keller Williams' experience, then you think, wow, the dream was sold, it's not true, and then you give it 12 months and you bail.
Yeah, and I'll dive in a little bit on that and then answer your question. That it was just follow the model, but it was like, what's the substance to the model? And the model will talk a lot about buying agency, which we don't do that much in the UK. The economic figures of 3%, 6%, buyer side, it just didn't stack and it was super confusing. And I am an agent and I love being an agent. We are very, very simple creatures. We are salespeople. As soon as you introduce the whole element of business ownership rather than valuing great
The other
service,
stuff that you've got to do,
negotiating,
recruiting, VAT,
it's
paying
crazy.
wages.
What sucked you both in then? Because both intelligent businessmen.
Or
and-
Keller.
Yeah, you both got sucked in along with a lot of other people. I mean, Matt Giggs was on here not so long ago.
He
took
nearly
a
got-
milk,
nearly-
took a milk
nearly got
beans,
sucked in.
didn't he? Well,
So should we do that bit, or do you just?
I'll just
want to ask what got
Tell us.
So
Oh, yeah.
I'll finalise the bit of
So,
what
sure.
brought me into the agency UK. So I looked at it, and they'd done a funding round. I am a massive believer of you're the sum of the 5 people you hang around the most. So in business, I'd now be going into partnership with Stephanie Vass, right? Mark Bruce, Andy Vash, sharp people that have founded a business and got it. They were a few years further on than where I was. Going into business with Kenny Bruce, I speak to Kenny probably more than my family members, and it's such a huge blessing in terms of the evolution I've been on as a business owner and as
And talk to us about what's your role and what's his role, and Steph and Andrew and Mark specifically. What do you all do? What do you
pause that thought for 1 second because it's I guess really important to get this bit across. I wasn't evolving them. I hadn't evolved at Keller Williams for a number of years. I hadn't evolved as owning the estate agency. Throw myself into a mix of people that are a lot sharper than me in many different areas. It's super exciting. Yesterday, I had the best day I've had in 25 as a a member of the agency UK. I got all of our agency directors together, a bit like your TOs of your PB world. We had a guest speaker. We were looking at what we're doing on socials, because I don't believe we're doing as well as we should do. Again, we might come on to that. And I left feeling kind of 20 feet tall. And I've got business partners that I truly believe in. And I think together we will get the business to take on your EXPs and wherever that might end up. But I didn't have that. I had a small funding round and maybe a chairman who didn't come forward. So
Okay.
that's why I decided to join.
Okay.
So you merged your business in, or you sold it to them, or you took shares for it?
An element of all of those, I would say.
and how big is the business now that you have kind of put together as your business and TA UK?
So I'll use the term, when they purchased me, they were at 150 agents. Now we will probably close on around 250 for the end of the year. So if you're looking at 7-month period, you're looking at an extra 100 agents.
Where does that put you in the pecking order of self-employed agency brokerage? Bearing in mind that EXP are the biggest 800. You got, who else you got? Hortons, obviously Yopa are doing their thing, Fine and Country, LSL are doing their thing in terms of
Or
self-employed.
you'll move, and you move. Sorry,
You move,
Then,
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it also depends on how you look at it, where you're looking at purely brokerage and what that looks like. I'll
Must
counter.
be top 3, right?
Yeah, I'd say so. But again, it depends how you look. But what I would say is next year, I personally believe these aren't Kenny's or anyone else's figures. These are mine. I think we'll be at 500 by the end of next year.
You'll double in size in 12 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's been some other acquisitions as well, as they're all mergers. So
Yeah, so we acquired Tyler Alexander over in Wales.
which is a great little business, wasn't it?
Yeah, cracking business. Ross, really, really sharp operator.
How many agents?
Sarah, very driven.
Sarah's great. Yeah, that was maybe 15 agents. And
Just in Newport. So
yeah, I would say now is the first time I've been doing this self-employed estate agency thing. We call it personal agency, which I'll come on to, but I've been doing this for 12 years. Now is the first time I'm not having to do cold outreach. It's almost going the other way. So my lead generation time that I have I'm just dealing with people coming in, and we are.
Let's talk about that question again then. So,
Okay.
role. So is that your role? Are you effectively business development?
So if you imagine the business has gone from a scrappy startup stage, a bit of a founder stage, and now we're in a scale up phase. So I would say I wear a number of hats, which is always slightly dangerous in business. I run London for the agency UK. We have some very ambitious growth plans. We know we're not on the map. We are allocating a lot of time and effort, should I say, come January onwards, and have some pretty ambitious plans there. I also, if you look at the skill set of all the team that I've mentioned, they're brilliant in their own right, but they don't necessarily understand brokerage the way you and I do because of our education at Keller Williams. So I've been coming to essentially just be another person rowing that boat in the
So
leadership
you must
position.
have defined role.
Yeah, so it will be to grow what we call our EADs. So that's our estate agency director program. So that's agents up and down the country that will come in, be great personal agents, but then mentor people around them.
So the downline leaders.
I wouldn't call it a downline. Every agent in our business is on a 70-30 split. But what we will do is we'll allocate a percentage of that 70-30 of our own money back to the mentors,
Yeah.
just to say thank you so much for helping them get there quicker.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm growing that. I'm recruiting anyway. I think I'll probably do. I say personally, it's not in isolation because we do it as a team, but in terms of the leads I brought in, I'll probably do 5 this month outside of London just to pass over. We'll do a couple in London. We're working on a couple of interesting names in London as well that would really slingshot us forward.
So
Okay.
Steph, CEO or chief customer, or what the role is? I just want to get.
Yeah, so Andy's the CEO.
So Andy Bass, the CEO.
Yeah.
Steph.
is, she called herself CSO. I would just say an absolute
What
grafter
does that
and
stand for?
chief sales. I mean, that was one time I think I saw something.
Yeah.
Steph, I wouldn't give Steph a title, and because she wouldn't. She would say she's a founder. She does everything still. So it would be silly of me or silly of us to pigeon her a title for the sake of it. She's grafting. She plays all out. She does her own real estate.
Can I say something that I think everyone is thinking?
Go on.
I don't want to put you on the spot. As a business grows, shouldn't a business have defined roles for the senior people within it so that everyone outside and inside of the business and those individuals themselves know exactly what they're doing?
So roles or
It
titles?
sounds a bit scrappy and startup-y still.
I would say, is it roles or titles? Because if we were pigeonholing Steph on a title, I'd say almost head of PR, voice of the
But the
business.
title denotes the role, right?
It does, but in terms of
As you get bigger.
yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
But then there's a lot more structure in situ since Kenny's come in. So who's the vice executive chairman? So on Tuesday there'll be a board meeting. On Wednesday we'll have our exec leadership meeting. It is very well run, and I would say that's something that probably Kenny's come in and done.
Yeah.
Because when he joined the business 2 years ago, we were
Purple Bricks was extremely well structured.
it was.
Everybody knew what they were doing and where they were going.
Roles, titles, whatever.
Yeah.
Everyone knew exactly what they were doing.
I would say titles aside, trust me, everyone knows what they're doing. What works. So Kenny's installed, I guess, a couple of things in this: urgency, intensity, and collaboration. So we work a lot on, if I bring on someone I think's a good candidate up in Nottingham, I'll pass it to Nick. If someone wants help with the onboarding and training, I love scripts and dialogue, they'll bring me in. So those are the three things as we start in this scale up phase that we're doing. But everyone has defined roles. We've just brought in the head of coaching. We've got head of operations. We've got CFO. So I think we've almost just picked on the Steph piece, but actually it's a very, very well.
I think we can spend too much time on TAUK, which is not what this podcast is about. It's about you as a person and an individual, and people can definitely reach out to you to find out more, can't they? And the journey you're on.
Yeah, me, yeah.
But if I do it,
Answer your question on the Keller thing.
we'll come back to that though, because I want to go right back, because when I was doing my research and looking back, most people we have on this podcast have been career estate agents.
Yeah.
Gareth, previous episode, started at 17, went to where he is now. From my research, maybe I've got this wrong. You weren't a career estate agent. You didn't start in that world. So where did the working world start for you?
At Clark's, in fact, on a paper round when I was 10 that I illegally got.
10.
10. So
It's very illegal.
it was. So my mom, there we go, my brummy twang will come out here. I wanted to earn some money. We didn't have that much. My sister had a paper round, and I said, well, you sign up and I'll go and do it. So I was pulling the trolley. I think before that, when our friends used to come over, I used to go out with a bucket of soapy water and watch their car and inevitably scratch them when I dropped it on the driveway and try and get a few quid off them then. So I've always had a work ethic of, I've just got to go and earn dough. I went through university, was fortunate enough to get a job as a management consultant for Deloitte in London. I won't dwell on that too much, but I was there for 4 years, and that's
Quite a while, weren't you?
yeah, that saw me through very well. Even when I go for funding and raises, or my ex-partner, we're in development business, and we do, as soon as you throw that out in conversation, it works really well. But I hated it. I hated looking around and going to the directors who were chasing partner. They looked like crap. They were working till crazy late in the office. They were eating shite. And I had more disposable income than they did because they had kids in private school and whatever else. But they were clinging on to this ladder, this corporate ladder. And I was like, but what if you don't get there? Like, what does that mean? And at any given point, it would be, well, you're in. I mean, I had a call with my partner one day. Said, you said you were up for travel, didn't you? And I'd been in Leeds quite a bit. I said, yeah. He goes, well, on Sunday, we want to fly you to New Zealand and put you out there for 9 months. And I was like, absolutely not. Like, that's a consult me. That's quite a bit, going to Leeds and on getting the fast train back's a bit different. So left that, started flipping houses, managed to get a bank called Handelsbanken to back me. They've got the lowest bad debt ratio in the world because they lend on a handshake. So started flipping houses, managed to get a private individual to start backing those flips. Very quickly realised that estate agents.
It's in Birmingham.
This is in Solihull, yeah.
Right, okay.
That estate agents were shocking. And I remember my why for getting into a estate agency was I'd lost a relative, and I said to the family, listen, I'll do up the house, and then I'll take the profit, and the house can go. And I remember the guy saying to me, the first 2 weeks on Rightmove are super important, and here's the description. So his photos were shocking, and this must be 20 something years ago now. And the write up was awful. We are delighted to offer, agents still do it now, the keys to all right.
Yeah.
And he didn't even know all the work I'd done on it, which has been modernized. I'm like, are you kidding me? It wasn't selling the lifestyle. So I sent him some more photos. I got them done. And my photos versus his photos were shocking. Now, I went into the office, and I can see it now, and it boils my blood. And I said, listen, it's been 2 weeks now. I keep emailing the photos. I keep I've changed the description, like you just update it here. And he said to me, I don't know how to use that right move, Chris. I'll have to wait till Becky comes back. Now I'm not an aggressive guy, but I was like, give me the fucking keys. Like, this is like I've said, it's a relative's photo. Sorry,
But
property.
that was, yeah. You're a
It's
treasure to the
stressful,
family as well because they are. Yeah.
absolutely brutal. And I got the keys, and I just thought, how is it at such an emotional point of someone's life can this fucking idiot in his shiny suit from Next does not understand how to deal with people? Because the property is secondary in our game. Like, it's a people game. You have to have empathy, understanding. And I just thought, and ironically, their business has now gone under, and they had a wrangle with the first business I started, and it didn't quite go well, and what have you. Now, I'm not saying, I wanted that. I don't put out bad karma, but how do you not know how to use Rightmove? And I think if you're a 50-year-old kind of white dude in a state agency now in a senior manager position, I really worry for you. I really worry. This is a very different game than it was back then. And with the emergence of these models and everything else, when I go back to that bit there was no fiduciary, there was no care, there was no expert marketing. Um, so I spoke to a friend of mine who was selling ski resorts in Vila in Switzerland, and he wanted to set up an estate agency in Solihull.
Okay.
Guy called Dominic.
So Switzerland to Solihull. Seriously?
Yeah, all right. I know.
Start with the same letter.
And he,
Where do we go next? Yeah, Verbier, Berbico. No, let's go to Solihull.
he was from Solihull. We both went to school in Warwick, and he had a bit of a fallout with his old man, and he was like, well, I'll go back, and I'm setting the stay and tee up. And what was beautiful about the way Dom thought was, if he was selling stuff for like 25 million, right? So if someone rang him and said, what's going on with my sales?
The whole of Solihull.
Yeah.
No,
So in
that's be like, good. Yeah. Hey, listen, Solihull's posh now, mate.
Is it?
And so, but he would know everything. He would know the square footage. He would know how long it'd been on the market. He would know who the buyers were, exactly where they were in the sales chain. If it's a slightly different process there. And I just thought that level of service, and then my background at Deloitte was redesigning processes. So there was a really good book about, it's called Moment of Truth, Scandinavian Airlines. And it's a bit like when you go to an EasyJet, that moment you have when you go to check in is how the brand is associated.
Yeah.
And so I was redesigning processes and flows, and we were using his knowledge. But to come back to the point of not being a career estate agency, I was so lucky because now I'll tell you about my first offer in a minute, and Dom laughed at me. How I negotiated. I was like a wet puppy, I didn't know what to do.
So what did you open up as? What was your brand?
We were DM and Co. So I was the
Okay.
Co. We were 50-50 on it. I didn't want my name on there for a few reasons. Mainly one is I thought I would end up back in London at some point. But yeah, we launched that, and the best thing about not being a career estate agent was my drive was, where do I go and get my listings from? What do I do to lead generate to win business? So first, guerrilla marketing, right? So first frost of the year, we got 1,000 scrapers.
High scrapers. Yeah.
And we went and left them on people's cars. DM and Co. Why not use us, right? And we left them on people's. We left them all over. We ran out of time. We were knackered. But the main thing was, if you'd been on for over 8 weeks, you'd get one of those. You'd come out, be pissed off with your agent, be pissed off it's the first frost, and go, oh, okay. So it was great. We used to have, boxing gloves hanging in the paper on a full-page spread saying, we fight for every £1,000, right in the middle of the little crappy. It was brilliant. I loved it. Ran that for 4 years, and then sold it to
A
Dom.
challenger brand.
Completely challenger, and he's gone on.
So you were what? Negging, listing?
A bit like Steph's role. I was doing everything. I was going out on vowels. I was running the business. I was painting the sticks red. I was dealing with Rightmove. I was learning what the discover bit was. I was designing our processes to make it sure it was better. I was picking up the phones on Sundays that were diverted to my mobile because we were 7 till 9, 7 days a week. Absolutely everything. But the main thing I was doing was lead generating. We were sat there going, right, if we put 7.5 grand in each, and we gave ourselves 3 months to get, I can't remember how many listings. So we lived off 7.5 grand, and we basically said we put 15 grand in each, and we just went at it. We just went at it. We really, really did.
So then you sold your share to him.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Then what happened?
Moved to London.
Yeah.
can I say this? Signed the license for Fine and Country for Kensington, Chelsea, and gave it back a week later.
Why?
Don't.
Only asking the questions every
No. I think that
from the
FM's
country, one of the best brands in the country, in my opinion.
cracking brand.
Yeah.
Very, very good brand.
And we're going back a bit here.
We are.
Yep.
We are. We're going back 8 years. I didn't believe their different London licensees were on the page with the same page with each other. And so, why did I join the TAUK? I fit in. I believe in the people. Everyone knows where true north is. Every decision we make is how do we make our agents more profitable. It's a great group of people where you leave and you feel excited. When I went to their first board meeting, I looked around and I was like, this is just shocking. You had the East London geezers who are a bit Essexy going, oh, mate, you fucking
Nothing wrong with that.
but you had the West London guys from Essex. Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
But
But
reversed out of the agreement.
Dean sold it now. So
I did. And then I started consulting for Keller Williams UK because my background in Deloitte and processes and what I'd done. Keller Williams is a training and tech company. So they said, will you come and do an overview of our business and see what's lacking?
Who else?
the UK. Yeah, I was going to say UK.
Is this when it was run by Diane Griffin?
Yeah, so Diane asked me to do it.
Diane Griffin, US market centre owner for Keller Williams,
Yes.
was then an investor in Keller Williams UK as a franchisor. And they tried at first, we're now getting onto the Keller thing. Question. They tried to run Keller Williams UK from the US. What could possibly go wrong?
So they asked me to have a good look at it, and I spent a few months there. And I was like, I fundamentally believe this model is needed in the UK. Everything that I went through, my journey, I believe I can add a load of value to this model. And so I said, listen, I'll happily open up one of these market centres.
This is when, 2017, 18?
Yeah, it must have been around then. And I said, listen, it's not fit for purpose as it stands. So let me do a load of work on the offering.
And what did Keller have at the time? They had some existing markets.
They'd had one just shut called Keller Williams Premier. They had the KW in Mayfair and one in Leeds and one in Glasgow.
I was going to say
So they had
Glasgow. Yeah.
3 market centre locations, so
Yeah.
physical market centres, from which the person running that, the OP, would then go and recruit agents underneath that
Yeah.
OP team. Right. Okay. Okay. So Keller Williams kind of doesn't exist anymore. It does-ish. I think Claire Reddings are still making a good fist, I think, of the market centre that I was involved in, which is Essex-based. I think they've now moved to near Liverpool Street, actually. But let's talk about this Keller Williams thing, because in my history with Keller Williams, similar to yours, we've never really talked about the story of Keller Williams in recent times insofar as why it crashed and burned, my words, not yours, crashed and burned so catastrophically, and what I consider to be one of the greatest missed opportunities in UK estate agency. Would you agree with that?
I'd agree with the latter part.
Big statement.
I'd agree with the latter
Crashed and
part.
burned. Definitely
I,
crashed.
no,
As if he went bust.
yes. So the big
UK
it
franchisor went bust.
I'll be as direct as I can be here. I think, I mean, there are a lot of agents still at Keller, and there's a couple of hundred there, right? And I wish nothing but success for the brand. I learned a hell of a lot there.
Well, this isn't, let's be clear, this
No,
isn't
yeah,
about
because
agents.
we had Ev was on, wasn't she, on the podcast? She was doing incredibly in Scotland.
We're not,
incredibly.
I'm not seeking to cast aspersions about agents. That
No,
do
but if
jobs.
they're listening to this,
No, but I'm talking about the structure of what
The-
was Keller Williams UK and what it is now. It was an unmitigated disaster.
we went up to 12 market centres. I was involved in 2 of those. You were involved in one of them. The agent count was a lot higher, probably double than what it is now.
Yeah, 500.
And it's an
Did it
incredible,
reach 500?
it's an incredible business.
Not all productive, but
Yeah.
500 as in agent count, which is what they were obsessed with, by the way. So why, and I can answer this question separately and in a sec. I'm going to ask you, why did it go horribly wrong, in the sense that now they've got half the amount of agents, no one ever hears about them, ever. They've had loads of bad press, and they don't have 12 market centres now. They have, I think, 2. And you can talk about this, by the way.
No,
Don't back this off with some legal bullshit.
no, I know I can talk about it. So
The only thing I can't talk about is the deal that I did, my settlement deal,
yes.
which was fine.
So
I can't talk about the bones of it.
anyone watching this, yeah, you can talk about it.
Yeah, because he told me, because he knows.
anyone
Think of a pound.
Yeah, you're gonna fans if you want to. Yeah.
I
So
have no idea.
So you've alluded to the fact that we both left Keller Williams on unhappy terms, and I did leave on unhappy
Once I
terms.
left, I was very happy.
Yeah, I was. I listen. You're right. It's the biggest missed opportunity, and had they have got it right, and they didn't for a number of reasons we'll go on to, it would be up there challenging EXP, and what the element of support, I guess, almost that TAUK give you, your OP and your market center community would have given you. But unfortunately, there were lots of bad decisions. There was a hell of a lot of bad leadership, and
What were the bad decisions? What were um
but the fundamentals, Russell, were if you look at France, where it's done very, very well, or Portugal, they would have 5 French blokes or French ladies that are all going, "There's True North, that's what we're doing." Like we've got the TAUK. What they decided to do was hire in an MD and then have the other 4 be some of the top realtors in the world that own these big businesses and own different bits in the vertical. Great. But what are they doing to help recruit in the UK, to help understand that the economic model doesn't work in the UK for market center owners, to heavily invest, not just fly over once a quarter or once a month to train a training session on mindset. So the pure fundamentals of the Keller Williams model is 5 people, all skin in the game, true north that way. Didn't happen. So it was a recipe for failure from the start. And the pain for me is every single time we were told by these investors and said person that was running the business, follow the model, follow the model. You have to have the foundations. Chris, you're too creative. Just follow the model. It was like some weird witchcraft.
yeah,
And I'm looking going,
a cult.
you don't have the fucking foundations in situ. So don't you dare tell me to follow the model. And the more we challenged, I challenged, Russell challenged, we challenged and challenged and challenged. And it was feet in there that don't want to hear it, don't want to hear it, don't want to hear it, don't want to hear it. Oh, fuck, can you come and help us? No, I'm done.
At the same time, you've invested a lot of
It-
money. You
yeah.
know, you've gone from your DM and Co. nice world where you've repaid your 15 grand and you're earning probably a decent income up in Solihull to pouring money into a business, I would imagine.
Yeah. And the real hard thing for me as well was I was introduced to the way Keller Williams works is the top 100 realtors in the world are all put into a group with Gary Keller and he mentors them and then they mentor out. So I was put into a group with those guys. I became very, very close friends with them. In fact, I introduced one to Kenny Bruce the other day. It was like a meeting of minds. It was brilliant. And he funnily enough, he said, Chris, Keller Williams was your MBA. It's that simple. You'll go on with Kenny now and grow something huge. Treat Keller as your MBA, which
Yeah.
is quite a nice way to look at it. But those guys lost loads of money. But if forget me, one of the things I felt criminal about that business was you would get people putting everything they own, their savings, their buy to let, they would PG on absolute BS of what they would potentially go and earn or other promises, right? And that's why then it crumbled down to, like Russell said, a couple of market centers.
Let me look. We're interviewing you, right? But let me give you my take because obviously I was pretty close to it in terms of my dispute with them. I suppose 3 years in, right? So I put together an investor team to launch the Essex area, if you like, market centre. Put together an investment team and an operational team, and actually within 2 years, 2.5 years, thanks to the likes of Mark Reddings and Claire Reddings, who are very, very good, by the way, operationally, got that business to about 100 agents. As we got to 100 agents, we realised, however, that the numbers that we had invested in on the basis of, they weren't stacking up. It just didn't make any sense. There were certain things that we had done based on follow the model. Okay, we'll follow the model. That even though we followed the model, the numbers dropping out, the consequence of that just weren't adding up. Despite getting to 100 agents and doing, I think we were doing about 3 or 4 million quid in revenue. Anyway, the reasons that Keller Williams UK hasn't worked for the following. First of all, the US see every market as a US market. You cannot convince them, particularly the likes of Diane Griffin, Ben Taylor, Matt Fettick, and others, that the UK market is different. And actually, the UK market is very different to France, Germany, Spain, everywhere else. The reason being, we don't have a predominant self-employed market with traction. So you have to try and persuade people not just to jump from Keller Williams to Compass or from Caldwell Banker to Century 21. That's easy. That's a brand switch. In the UK, you have to convince someone that works for Countrywide or Foxtons to go from being employed to self-employed. Massive, different thing altogether. Keller Williams UK and US did not understand that. Bearing in mind, the big investors in the Keller Williams UK business were from the US market centre owners. The other problem is, I think as Chris has alluded to, is bearing in mind the EXP model comes out of Keller Williams. So Glenn Sanford, that runs EXP, is ex-Keller Williams.
Yeah.
Most people don't realise that, right? A phenomenal individual, by the way, that a few years ago...
Podcast available.
Yeah, yes, indeed. We've interviewed him, one of the few people that have, and the whole team, actually. But he realised that the model, the Keller Williams model, was a bit outdated. So he changed it. He took out the market centre structure, which, of course, is where there's a lot of cost and a lot of money goes into that doesn't then otherwise go to the ultimate owner or to the agents. So for all those reasons, it failed. But the other reason was you had at the helm of the UK business, I'm going to say it because you probably won't want to, someone that was so ambitious to become something that he was desperate to be in terms of an estate agency leader, that was so desperate to get to that would almost do anything to encourage people to become market centre owners and agents, despite the fact that some of the things that were said were not truthful. Now, I'm saying that and people go, oh my God, he's just said that someone wasn't telling the truth. It's true. There were people at the top of the Keller Williams business that were fundamentally manipulating the potential outcomes of a market centre based on falsehood, based on numbers that could not be achieved.
Well, I always believe in a right to reply, so maybe one day we'll come on to that.
Let me look down the camera and say, Ben Taylor, you and I do not get on. I've not been in touch with Ben Taylor since our fallout and my settlement. Ben, if you want to come on and talk about this, even if you don't want me in the room, and I understand perhaps as a bit of an adversary, you might not want that. I'm sure Russell Jervis will be more than happy to talk to you. But what I'm saying is right, that unfortunately that business was led incorrectly in such a way that actually there were people both at a market centre level and an agent level that but despite their best endeavours, did everything they needed to do to succeed. But because the numbers were stacked against them and they'd been poured in on a falsehood, they never had any chance. And that is why that business has fundamentally failed in the UK. I think Ben Taylor has a lot to answer for.
I think I'll answer, or I'll pass comment in two ways. The first thing is I always look to go to people's defensive, and the first one will be the model was set up for that individual to fail. And the flip side, and it's very easy flip, is over the number of years where the journey wasn't working, I think there should have been an ego piece off and I will step aside unless you listen to me because this isn't working, because everyone was screaming it. I think the second thing is, if you have a superpower where you can tell someone that the sea is red and 3 days later they'll be walking on the Dubai Marina and go, no, it's not. You are that good. You have an integrity. You have a right to use that superpower and in a correct way. And not for
selfish reasons.
Exactly that.
Listening to both and listening on the outside and listening to Russ, it just feels very much you're so frustrated you weren't listened to, and that
we had breakaway groups. We
were talking to the board directly in the United States, and so anyway. But so we weren't listened to. But unfortunately, what then happened was what people like Chris and I predicted was that the holding company for Keller Williams UK went bust. Ben Taylor was pushed out of that business. And look, there's no bitterness here, by the way. I came out of this okay. I mean, I'm not going to talk about the exact settlement.
It's one of those life lessons.
I made money. The frustration is that if it had been handled differently by different people and had been caught earlier, Keller Williams UK now would still be an entity that had a chance of being commercially successful, but also with a decent reputation. I think the Keller Williams UK reputation in the industry now in the UK is in the toilet.
But everything happens for a reason. And actually, if you look at what's happening in the US now, and I know we were talking off camera about going to Inman and NAR, Keller Williams is not in a good spot. It's not in a good spot. It's losing its leaders. Funnily enough, one of those leaders we were talking about that was not listening to us, Matt Fettick, guess what? Ended up at EXP. He's at EXP,
didn't know,
right?
Yeah.
I know Glenn well, right? He's great. And, I could pick up the phone to him now and he'd take my call. you've got a very, very inspirational leader there that gets the economics of it, but also Keller Williams. I was listening to a podcast the other day of if you're creating a brokerage, what's the perfect brokerage and what does it look like? And I was getting lots of insights on Keller, but they're a ship that's it's got all the bricks and mortar which EXP doesn't have. It's got too many layers of fat. Um, but their ex CEO was suing them for sexual allegation charges, and but it's starting to fail. It's losing agent count. Its tech stack isn't there.
Failure in the UK has tainted the self-employed model from the agent recruitment perspective.
No, I think I don't at all. But I also think it's allowed for a bigger opportunity, a homegrown brand, TAUK. But it's just
an EXP to clean up.
and EXP, yeah. But it's if Keller would have succeeded, having to listen and knowing it was a great business for so many reasons, but had it have succeeded, and we all put more money in, we all open more market centers, I believe 5 years down the line, we wouldn't have any tech stack. We wouldn't have the AI we need. And actually we would have it would have created a lot more bankruptcies than what it did, right? Or people going bust or whatever else, or people losing their buy-to-lets and wives, and it was brutal. But actually, I'm glad it ended when it did.
So remember, there was
People losing their shirts.
so remember the Purple Bricks, part of your leadership team now,
Yeah.
were the trailblazers for self-employed in the UK, as much as there is many. So with your MBA, from that learning, what are you taking forward now to TAUK, and what are you doing differently in your business? I must also ask if Russell gets paid every time he mentions EXP on this podcast, because
He's
keeps
mentioned
dropping that.
He
You've
is-
got me doing it now.
They're not
You've got me doing it now.
just the self-employed market. They're probably the biggest brand
You'll be telling me you've had that
for different for sales in the country. So look, give Adam Day credit where credit's due.
Yeah, you
I got a
can't.
lot of Adam.
Feel free to come to our conference as well. It's at the end of November. We'll get you a ticket, both of you. Well,
Lovely. Is it Miami? Because if it's not, he won't go.
it's Costa del Solihull. If you're there, it's actually Coventry. We do all of our stuff up in the middle.
How are you taking that learning from everything now? And the self-employed world is tough, isn't it? Well, exchanges, a conference recently, they were telling me it's 211 days.
Yeah.
For a transaction to go through from the day of listing. The average is now 211 days. Right. It was 165 days in 2019.
Yeah.
So that cash flow for an agent that you're saying, come along, because there is certainly a dream still being sold somewhere.
Yeah.
Work-life balance, own boss. I mean, I see lots of posts around your next shiny suits and what's that person really telling you. Remember, 95%, I think it is, of the UK is still, high street modeled leadership people, managers telling people what to do, and people love that. So the cash flowing for a self-employed person is still the same, and you have a slight different approach to it. But what are the lessons that you've learned to make sure that what you've got now, that you don't fall into the person we just mentioned?
I mean,
Keller Williams abyss.
I could talk for hours on this. If I give you just a real life scenario, I was chatting to a gentleman that I used to operate Scotland with last night, who is with another brokerage. I won't say who, but we were talking about cap management and the basic formula of how many cappers he needs in his business, and how then you can project out, how you can start people and say, well, you don't pay a cap till. So he is now looking at that and bring it out. When I'm looking at, we have very, very ambitious growth targets for London, financially forecasting that. I'm a lot more prudent based on getting our fingers burnt on what we were provided. But we'll look at one of the other things linked to that. I've built in a buying agency piece. So every time we go through a simple sales agreement, our agents are almost trained or forced to go, well, listen, if tick this box here, if I were to act as a buying agent for you, we've got it all set up, but don't worry, you don't pay me if not. So we're taking our average fee and increasing it by 1% or whatever else. It could be, for example, the advanced commission. And again, we've touched on that, but how do we articulate that? How do we get it in front of agents? Have we done a good enough job of that? No. So we've got a videographer in, Steph and I doing loads of work there to make sure that people know if they want to go self-employed, there is a financially kind of viable option which will help them do that. Keller Williams talks about, net receive $1 million in GCI. Well, I tell you what, Stetsons and cowboy hats, I've created a 7-step program to net 100K. And if you follow what he said follow the model then, but if you follow the simple process, it is that simple. So then what do my lead generation activities look like? How are we time blocking that for our agents? I think again, I could go on and on. The fundamental thing that Keller got wrong that I learned, and I call it fail forward, is when an agent started, they had no assistance with marketing. Whereas one of the things I'm looking to roll out is we have what's called an 8x8. So when you work out your first 50 properties you want to target, what 8 bits of value do you hit them with over 8 weeks? One of them is a black envelope, tea bag, Kit Kat, and handwritten letter. And it's like, let's grab a cuppa, right? Has a great return on investment. So my goal is we've started to train that out. We've built it from some of the very best agents in our business. When you start with us from January onwards, certainly in London where we'll be trialing it, it's not just going all that off Amazon. There's the marketing suite. Here's your pack, and here's our ops manager's done all your bespoke marketing, so you've got stuff to hand deliver. Here are your properties to go out. You get an email every Sunday night going, this is your target. So it's a lot more hands-on. Now, I wouldn't have with what if you've got a pure brokerage here, you've got a high street here, we're one step in, and I want to make sure that all the great bits I learned, so the processes, the 36 touches, etc., we do as much as we can do as the model will allow for our agents. So I'm taking all the contact touch points and what we know works in France, in we
And what does all this
Portugal,
boil
but then
down to?
pull
So,
it,
so
we pull it in.
I'm a talk agent. What
Yeah.
does the average talk agent earn in terms of fees on an annual basis? And how many aren't productive?
They follow this process 100K.
Well, but what's the reality?
So we announced this at our conference that we're close, we're over 200 something agents, and the average agent is taking home over 50K. Now, when you look at
The average agent that's productive, or the average agent?
average agent,
When you say taking home, being paid to their limited company?
yeah,
or-
going into their limited
After
company.
split.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what's great about that is we are in Glasgow, we're in Devon, we're in the South Coast, we're in Wales, we don't have too many agents inside the M25. So when we start, you can see actually that will go up. But more importantly, for me, maybe not more importantly for anyone listening to this, is our retention rate, right? We only lose, since we started the business, we've lost 7% of agents since Steph started that business with Andy.
So are the majority productive?
Yes.
Because again, back to the Keller days, there was this vanity metric, which was how many agents, and it was not actually even about productive agents. It was about how many agents that the business was recruiting. It was a complete false dawn. So, is there
So
a reality within talk that your 250 agents, let's say 75,
Well,
actually banking money?
I challenge you on this, right? So we have, since Kenny came in, he sets these lovely early morning meetings where it's probably once every 2 weeks. We'll look at our 0 agents, so agents that don't have anything, and that list is normally anywhere between 4 and 8. I don't think I've ever seen it over 10. And then as we go through, it'll be, oh well, they had 5 and they sold them all, or that's the husband of the husband and wife team, etc. So if it were to be the case that agents weren't productive in this model, then they would leave, and we would have an attrition rate like your American models, where EXP, wonderful model. Adam Day done a great job. We've got some brilliant leaders in that business. But I'll ask the question to you: for that 800 they've recruited, how many agents do you think they've had to recruit to get there?
I don't know. I've got no idea what their attrition rate is, what their churn is, or what the productivity.
I'd argue
I'm not involved, right?
I would argue it's well over 1,300.
Yeah.
Well over.
I don't know. But one of the biggest problems with self-employed, as we talked about earlier on, is the fact that often they are left on their own, and therefore it's all very well recruiting a number, but if they don't actually list, sell, and bank money, it's all vanity.
And also, I'm keen to understand how you will keep to the core value that you came into a state agency for, because as you chase numbers, 500 agents, and growth, and the big expansion for TA UK, when you Dom opened in Solihull, you wanted to provide that fantastic service.
Yeah.
So how do you
So
make sure that you keep that real?
Yeah.
In your growth ways.
I get challenged on this all the time. I was challenged by our senior leaders on this yesterday, because when Andy started, he's like, we want to be the best, not the biggest. And we are now in a different stage of the business where we do want to be the biggest, but we don't want to go, right, well, we'll just take on anyone. If you don't have experience, what's that? You drive Uber and come on in. And we used to, Russell and I used to be told to recruit people in where we knew there was a minuscule chance. And it's one of the main issues I have with a European model that have launched here. It's when I spoke to one of their,
I mean, IAD.
I'm not commenting, but what I am saying is, if you look at the way they do it, they get the majority of their agents in that are non-estate agents. And it's there, but who do you know? It's very much an MLM. So I personally have an issue with that model. Whereas if you look at how do we protect to make sure that everyone is world class in what we do, I think it's threefold. The first one is educating the public. We have, I was about to say how much money allocated. I won't.
Oh,
A lot of money allocated to make TAUK a household name, and we need to evolve the brand before you jump in there. There's lots we need to do.
Change it.
But having Kenny Bruce in the seat next to you, understanding the importance of B2C, that in 2 years' time, I fundamentally believe we will be a household name and a household brand. We do need to evolve it. The next bit is I call it the nan test, because it was my nan that we lost.
Yep.
Would I bring in an agent that I wouldn't give to my nan if she was selling her property and not worry about it to completion? So any of the agents that come in have to go through, any of the founders, Kenny
nan
or
test.
myself.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the nan test. The third one is our value proposition is everything we do is about becoming the best business partner for our agents. So I've got a listing, 4 million quid, St. James is lovely, nice photos, video me walking through, looking all suave. I very rarely list now, but I know that the concierge team will book in viewings and probably valuations off the back of that better than me. And so if I look at, again, pure brokerage, you're getting an email across going so-and-so rang, or you're getting a call directed where you're on your way to doing a viewing. In TAUK, there are people that are much better than me qualifying applicants and booking them in my diary, and every single agent has that.
And so, but so in your world,
Yeah.
as your chief commercial officer, you're still listing houses.
I do splits with agents now in the team, and I'll do the odd bit with my soon-to-be ex-wife, which is fun. We get on really, really well. I probably won't, unless it's a trophy asset or a friend. This came in from a friend of ours that Russell knows in New York that wanted us to list. In fact, we should chat because she's in London tonight. She might want to go for a drink. But I won't do. Steph will choose to.
Right.
Mark, one of the founders, will do a little bit. Kenny won't anymore. I will probably, but anything I do going forward, I will split with another agent, and we see that happening quite a bit as well.
Fascinating. So you're doing the walking the talk, aren't you?
I am. I probably won't do next year onwards. And like I say, I'll split it out. I always wanted to be, certainly when I started the estate agency at Keller, I was I think one of the youngest OPs in the world. I think I was second to this French guy, so I used to give him a little dead arm when I saw him at the conferences. But I say that not to impress you, but impress upon you. I had bigger shoes to fill, maybe. So I still wanted to be listing stuff. I still wanted to be getting 2% fees, so I could turn around a bit like Adam Horton and go, look, I can do this. Now I'm at the point in my career from that's more vanity. I'm past that from an ego point of view, an opportunity cost point of view. The board, the founders, the agents who are in the business, the agency directors, they don't want me to, it's not worth my time. I'm much better spent helping agents run profitable businesses. If you ask my ex-wife actually what I'm good at, she'll say not much bar helping estate agents run profitable estate agency businesses. So if I'm out listing and dealing with the stress of vendors and everything else, it's not conducive to growth.
And what's the ultimate aim for TAUK, for TAUK? Where does it go? What does it do in 5 to 10 years' time? Does it sell to someone? Does it list on a stock exchange? Is there a goal?
The next goal is really simple: get to 1,000 agents. But 1,000.
What's the ultimate goal? Because I'll have to put it to you that Kenny Bruce and Harry Hill, well, it has to be, because they don't invest in something for no return.
No,
They don't stick money and time into something for nothing back. So there has to be an ROI. There has to be a consequence.
I am
just asking what that is.
So I'm sure there will be an event, right? But what that looks like, who knows? Who knows? The goal for me, the goal in the business is really simple. How do we get to 1,000 agents, but with the NAN test?
Yeah.
How do we become a household name? And then, yeah, I mean, there are businesses trying to buy us already. There are, it's crazy the what's happening. And it's, if you look at before Kenny got involved, I think a couple of years ago, TAUK were at 29 agents. I've just said next year we'll finish at 500.
Yeah.
There are people circling.
Do you think it's Purple Bricks Mark II for self-employed, which it kind of was in the first?
So it gets called that a lot. no. And I, if Kenny was sat here, I'd say this to him, because the fundamental thing Kenny got wrong was the people aspect and the fiduciary the agent offers. Their service was really, really simple. The high street is pretty shit on average. We're pretty shit, but we're cheap. So what do you want to pay? And that's where commisery rang well.
Yeah.
And
But you're saying you're gunning for EXP. So you mentioned 1,000 agents would take you right now to
Number
be
one.
bigger than EXP.
Yeah.
EXP at 800.
you've said gunning for EXP. I don't know if I said.
Is that the ambition? Yeah, but don't tell me that you don't have internal management meetings where you talk about EXP being your kind of North Star.
Oh,
We want to
and-
be bigger. Because at the moment, let's say you're not number 3 or 4. Let's say you're number 2. Let's say no one wants to be number 2, do they?
No, we'd love to be number one. If you look at 1,000,
No one wants to be the George Russell, do they? Yeah.
we're all ambitious. We're all ambitious, but we don't get there by changing us to something that works. We get there by evolving it. So if you look at our AI project that we're working on, if you look at our again, the customer hub, how do we get valuations off of that? I'm a real process and tech expert, right? So how do we, with our data, if we listen to Kirsty Franks, 15% of people are looking to move right now. Well, let's say we got a couple of 100,000 people on our CRM. What are we doing to drive valuations to the agents? And that's a project that I'm super excited about. So we'll go big. There will be some kind of
event. Yeah.
But what that looks like is very much open for discussion. And I think the one thing I will say, you've touched on this in terms of Kenny not getting involved. Booming didn't go well, right? And that's no secret.
They had a good go.
Say again?
I admire them for having a go.
I really do. I really, really do. But what I will say is this is Kenny's last hurrah, right? He is.
He's not dying.
No. He's certainly not. But he is all in on this, all in and then some, whether that's redemption or what. But I have never seen a man so driven, or I have, let me caveat this in a second, so driven. But I fundamentally believe in what they'll do because they're not bullshitter. They're a people. They've learned the best bits from their brother about processes and numbers, the culture they create. People will run through walls for that man. And so would I. Because he cares about the individual agent. His ego isn't at the center of this. What comes with that is then something very, very beautiful and special, where do we always see eye to eye? No. Does he slap his hand on the table sometimes when I'm going off looking at AI projects when I shouldn't be? Of course, we don't all agree, but we all want to be the best business partner for the agents. And that is so genuine. And I don't believe in the other models it is.
Very, very interesting. Because if you look at the LinkedIn, the window of recruitment on the world of estate agency, you'd definitely say you've seen Kenny a lot more recently than we have over the previous 12 months. And there might be someone in PR could do one of those pie charts that shows the growth of self-employed agents in the last 12 months. Because when Steph sat here, I think it was
done the tweak.
120.
30% up year on year.
No, but in each individual one, where's the growth?
Oh, is it in each business?
Yeah, where's the growth been?
Yeah.
Because
You do retention rate as well. That'd be very good.
yeah, well, maybe there's a challenge for you, Russell, as you fly to Miami. You could get that put together. Chris, that's been absolutely fascinating. A wonderful insight into your journey, into the journey of TAUK, and a very interesting insight into the world of your Keller
I think
experiences.
we lifted the lid a bit more on Keller, but why not, right? It's I think not only are these things interesting, but I think there's also, if you've had an experience in some regard, whether it's gone well or not, and we talk a lot about success and so on, but we should open up and talk about some of the stuff in the industry that hasn't gone so well.
Yeah.
As a kind of learning exercise, but also I have to say as a bit of a cautionary tale sometimes. That's what this is about.
And we haven't had one person on here who's running successful businesses that has not had a failure.
A downside, absolutely. Yeah. It's part of the journey to success.
Definitely. Chris, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks,
That's it. That's episode 45. We're already booked in for the rest of the year, so I think we've got something like 8 or 9 more to do before the end of 2025. Finishing in December with a incredible story for a gentleman, which I know listeners are going to love. So we're wrapping up for today. So it just leaves me to say it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him.
Thank you.